Andy and I had lunch on Friday, and he was telling me some of his background. We meet occasionally and have lunch, and I've heard a lot of his wonderful stories. And he's played on Broadway. He's played in Las Vegas. He's very much in demand, traveling all over the world. And here he is pretty much every Sunday with us. So we're very happy.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you.
So this week's topic is spiritual love. Last week we talked about spiritual truth, which in a nutshell is that essence of truth that is unchanging, the element of what we would call spiritual reality that is unchanging, and everything in the physical realm is meant to change. We're all evolving and changing and going through experiences that allow us to experience things at different levels. The essence of love, from a spiritual context, is really more. It includes, but is more than the emotion we call love. We have lots of different ways that we experience love as human beings. We experience love of family. We experience romantic love. We experience, you might just love beauty. You might love going outdoors. You might love, there's all kinds of things where we can have that experience, that feeling of love, you know. Saw a little bit of it when the shuttle flew over the other day, you know. People were out just in amazement and joy and you know, for an interesting experience like that. In metaphysical terms, what we mean when we say spiritual love is something even deeper than that. It's something that we would say is really the animating force of the whole universe and whatever other universes may exist. That the power of the universe itself, the power that animates you, that causes you to somehow, as an entity of intelligence, to be able to attract to you all of the stuff you need to function as a human being. Now, there's a couple of views of this. You know, there's the scientific viewpoint that says the essence of who you are and the feeling that you have, the sense of being alive, is a function of your physical being, that because your physical being exists, you have those experiences. And there's the metaphysical viewpoint that says, no, the consciousness comes first, and somehow the consciousness attracts to it everything that we need for this physical vehicle. Just imagine, you know, all the parts of you, you know, all the atoms, all the molecules, all the cells, all the everything that has to be somehow coordinated by some kind of an intelligence. And we know that when that intelligence leaves the physical body ceases to exist the way it had before. You know, all those parts go off and be part of something else. Now, how does that happen? We don't really know. But we would say that love includes the idea of everything that animates everything. So the essence of the universe is love. And again, that's not the same thing as love as the emotion. But it is that which empowers us and everything else, and that which kind of makes everything operate. Dr. Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook says, love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life. Life with a capital L means another euphemism for God or spirit, to express itself in terms of creation. Love is free from condemnation, even as it is free from fear. When we did that little meditation, it was about trying to, in your imagination, go to a place deeper and more and beyond our everyday experience of life, because our everyday experience of life, you know, there's some fear in there, there's some concern in there, you know, there's some limitation in there, but down beneath that, there's some kind of a core identity. Some might call it the soul, some might call it the higher self or the deeper self, that is basically the operating template for you as an individualized being. It contains within it who you are that makes you both similar to and different from everyone and everything else. And if you imagine your consciousness as a V, at the very top of the V, your conscious mind, and then your subconscious mind going deeper and deeper and deeper, down to a point where there's just this pure identity, and then beyond that, the hourglass would open up to infinity and becomes part of all that is, part of the one mind. That's why we say you and I are individualized. We're not individual. We're part of something greater. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. This larger capacity for intelligence, this larger being nature. So Holmes talks about the self-givingness of spirit, that spirit somehow created creation out of itself and became, it'd probably be safe to say, the creation becomes part of spirit, because you can't have anything that's not part of spirit. So you and I are all part of this one thing that's really big. The physical aspects of it are the whole universe, plus any other universes that may exist. You always have to keep that open. The scientists are always, they say the universes look like slices of bread. That's what one of the things string theory says is that there are probably at least 11 dimensions that make up this and other universes that look like slices of bread. Didn't say if it was pumpernickel or whole wheat, but I think it's Wonder Bread, don't you? I wonder how that could be possible. Throughout our history, human beings, as we become self-aware, over time, through evolution, we become the capacity for self-awareness. We begin to wonder, what is our relationship with that which created us? You may be familiar with this image. Italian guy painted this back in the 1500s. A guy named Michelangelo. It's on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, And it's that point of connection where God is reaching out to its creation, and the creation is reaching back. We've always wondered the basic questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? Where did I come from? What's the purpose and meaning of all this? And, those questions are difficult to answer. I love Joseph Campbell's answer about the meaning of life. He says there isn't a meaning. The meaning of life is to live your life fully. That's the meaning for you. I don't believe in destiny. Our teaching, in the philosophy of the science of mind, we don't believe in destiny. We don't believe anything is programmed or destined to happen. That everything is unfolding in the now moment, driven by the intelligences involved. People say, well, this was meant to happen to me. By who? I always wonder. We could say Dorianne and I were destined to meet. Maybe. Or maybe it was a big cosmic accident. Or a little cosmic accident, depending on the scale of things. Either way, we're together, right? It's not... Thank you. Either way, we're together. And you sit there and say, well, gee, was this... in other words, am I following some roadmap that I don't have a lot of choice over? And there are certain stops along the way, like the rest stops on the New Jersey Turnpike. You got these places where you got to go in and use the facilities? Or is there really no roadmap beyond the tendencies we have, and we're making choices as we go, both conscious and subconscious, and we're creating it out of who we are in any given moment? And I'm sure that we've walked right past a whole lot of opportunities to connect at deeper levels with people, and we've probably made some choices to connect that we regret. But I don't think there is a destiny in that sense. I think we're simply here creating out of whole cloth our next experiences, individually and collectively. So the difference, in a sense, between the theology of a teaching like ours, or the philosophy of a teaching like ours, and the philosophy of many of the other great world religions, is that we believe that the intelligence that we call God is not operating independently of us. It is operating through us in terms of this creation. There may be other creations that we have nothing to do with. So God isn't a guy that looks like that up in the sky, micromanaging everything, making things happen, smiting people or whatever. But instead, it is not a being at all, but an intelligence out of which creation arises, and the creation is infused with the appropriate intelligence to express itself and to self-organize. Now, what would make us think that? Well, we look at the universe and we see what's happening. The universe itself is self-organizing. It's getting more complex since it began at the time of what we call the Big Bang. We see the same thing with life on this planet, that it began somehow in some primordial soup that, a pool of something probably got struck by lightning and something became alive. And then somehow more stuff became alive and then sex was invented. Much later, by the way. Much later, but sex is a more complex means of reproducing than what existed before. And sex can be complicated, right? But we continue to get more and more complex. So you look at the evidence of that and you say, well, what would be propelling this? What could be operating in this? And you can, we talk about the creative intelligence, the creative power of the universe is that which is fueling all this. So it's not like spirit created the universe and went away, as the deists believe. And by the way, most of the founding fathers were deists. But it's as though spirit created the universe or impelled the universe into being and continues to express as that creation. Very different concept than either a micromanaging God or an absent God. It's a universe infused with God. So by definition then, we'll take Costa right here. Costa, you are that part of God that is specifically designed to express life as Costa. And you're doing a magnificent job. And the same is true for all of us. Whoever you are that part of God, because it's all God, that is designed to express the intelligence as you and have the experience of being you in this incarnation. That's pretty cool, right? I think that feels good. That feels empowering. It's a little scary, too, because who do I ask for help, right, when I'm in trouble? I can't go to this guy and ask him to intervene because I've already been given everything I need. That's what I have to realize. See, part of the deal with this philosophy is we have to realize we've already been given everything we need. And if we're open to understanding that, it'll show up for us. If we're in fear, quite often, it doesn't show up for us because we keep it away. So, do you ever have the feeling that bad things were happening to you? That there was some kind of a force or entity in the world that just didn't like you? We used to call it Satan or something like that. Really, people think that there's many, many people that believe that when I have an impulse to do something harmful and I do it, it's because Satan made me do it. Right? And if I had a good impulse that I carried through, it's because the deity, whoever I would call God the Father, or in Christianity it might be Jesus or whoever, put that into me. But what we say is, no, there is no Satan. There's only one power. And the reason it seems like there's another power that we would call evil is because we have the complexity of intelligence to be capable of ignoring the one power and seeing it through a different lens. But it's the same power. There's only one thing going on, and that's God unfolding. Krishnamurti, one of the great philosophers of religion, said, when you see a little girl pouring milk into a glass, that is God pouring God into God. And when two people are having a conversation, that is God or a spirit having a conversation with itself. Now, we forget that, and we think we get to have this belief in separation, and I'm here and you're there and we're not connected. And that from that belief in separation comes also the fear that if I'm here and you're there and we're not connected, and you might want to do me harm. So I have to have an internal Department of Defense that's on alert. Now, on alert for what? On alert for anything, any danger. You know, remember the old Space Family Robinson show, you know, Will the robot? Danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Remember that? Well, a lot of us have that guy inside our head that's, you know, every time somebody new comes into the room, danger, danger, be on alert. Now, it takes a lot of just like in our nation, it takes a lot of resources to staff and pay for a Department of Defense. It takes a lot of your energy to be on guard, to not trust. And it's exhausting. And it's exhausting. And the problem is when you're manning the ramparts there of the castle to make sure that nobody's coming to invade, and you're sending out reconnaissance missions, you know, to see what's going on and who's up to what, we miss so many opportunities to connect. It's not to say there aren't things out there that would harm us. They're not to say there aren't people out there that are so much in fear and so twisted as a result that they would be destructive. But it's to recognize that your power does not come from fear. Your power comes from love. And a being that recognizes its own loving nature is much more powerful than one that doesn't. Mother Teresa got that. She understood that she could go into some of the most desperate places in the world and be fearless, because anything there that was perceived as evil or dangerous or sick was an illusion, was a false idea. Fear, false evidence appearing real. I love this quote. I just kind of threw it in. Musician Butch Hancock, he says, "Life in Lubbock, Texas taught me two things. One is that God loves you and you're going to burn in hell. The other is that sex is the most awful, filthy thing on earth and you should save it for someone you love." No wonder we're confused. I mean, we do get some mixed messages in our culture, don't we? I was just reading in the Times, the LA Times this morning, that the Catholic Church has appointed a new bishop for San Francisco who was one of the originators of Prop 8. That's a mixed message, you know, kind of an interesting thing to do. But, you know, how often are we confused about the way the world should work and how we should be with other people and how God thinks of us? You know, most of us learned about an angry God at some point along the way, who we had to beg for forgiveness and would never be enough. You find out if it's enough after you die. That's not a very good way to live. You see, so we get these kinds of mixed messages. But what if the nature of spirit is simply to be unfolding and giving of itself to provide creation with everything that every aspect of creation needs to be fully expressed? Fully expressed. One of the great unity teachers, Eric Butterworth, said there's only one sin in metaphysics, and that's the frustration of potential. And how do we frustrate our potential? We frustrate our potential by being in fear. We frustrate our potential by seeing ourselves as less than and not expressing, not giving our gift, not standing up in our own greatness. By saying, oh, who would want to hear from me? Or constantly being in a state of preparation for battle, seeing the world as a jungle. That limits our capacity to be creative. It limits our capacity to express and appreciate beauty. It limits our capacity to connect with ourselves at a deep enough level to be self-accepting enough to truly have quality relationships with other people. Because if you don't accept yourself, it's really hard to accept other people. Matter of fact, it's pretty near impossible. You can't love someone else more than you can love yourself. Not when you understand love as the capacity to empower another. See, when we feel weak, when we feel we don't deserve, what we do with our love is we disempower others. We try to control them. We try to make sure they're not cheating on us. Because why would you be concerned that your partner's cheating on you unless you would cheat on you? You see, jealousy has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with how you see yourself. I'm not worthy. If I were in a relationship with me, I'd be looking to get out too. Now, that's not how we're designed to function. We're designed to be magnificent beings of light. We're designed to see from the love that we are to the love that others are. And we know we have this capacity. Often we say, I have this capacity, but I'm waiting for the rest of the world to shape up so it'll be safe for me to do it. Well, the rest of the world probably isn't going to shape up before you do. But if you shape up, you may be the leader and the way shower for the rest of the world. That's what we're here to do. If you're in this room, you're supposed to be a way shower. You're not destined to, but you're here to do what? To awaken, right? Or to be entertained. But, eventually you'll wake up anyway. To awaken to what? To awaken to the reality that what you are, what I am, is love, light, beauty, joy, peace, power, wisdom. That's not what we can get. That's not what we can, we need to find. It's what we are. Spiritual growth, the mathematics of spiritual growth is not addition, it's subtraction. Actually, it's a combination of both. The addition of awareness and the subtraction of false belief. As I let go of things that I've come to accept as true that cause fear in my life, I step into my power. And sometimes that means standing up to something that really scares you. Walking through a door that is really has been terrifying. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation with someone. Maybe it's ending a relationship that needs to end. Maybe it's starting a relationship that needs to start. Maybe it's telling your boss how you are to be treated while still respecting your boss as a being of love as well. Maybe it's deciding once and for all to really have a prosperity consciousness and not worry about money anymore. There's a great little cartoon I meant to find. I couldn't find it. It's a little cartoon, and there's two doors, and there's a table in front of each door, and one door says prosperity, and another door, the next to it says the seminar about prosperity. And there's 100 people in line for the seminar, and nobody's in front of the door to prosperity. Who am I to be prosperous if no one tells me how? It's very interesting. One of the dynamics in the election is resentment on some people's part that Mitt Romney is wealthy. Just for being wealthy. And then that leads to other things. But isn't it interesting? Do you resent people that are wealthy? Do you find yourself resenting people that have really good relationships if you don't have a really good relationship? Do you resent people that have cars that start if you don't have a car that starts? Do Do you resent people that maybe have an entrepreneurial consciousness and can go into business when you feel stuck in a dead-end job? See, it's a very important thing to look at is where are my resentments? Where do I resent other people? Because that really says more about me than it does about them. Because usually I resent when I see someone else remind me of what I could be doing or having, but I'm not. Because I've decided at some level it's just not me. Or I don't deserve it. And that's not really true, but it's true to you as long as you accept it as true. You know, we do lots of prosperity classes here because I see it as a need among many people. And it's not exclusive to us, you know. Lots of people worry about not having enough money. Too much month at the end of the money, you know, that kind of problem. Where's it going to come from? And sometimes it's just an awareness thing. It's just not recognizing that all money is an enabling energy. It's not about the money, it's about what you can do with it. Money is an enabling energy in our culture because we have an economic culture. It's an enabling energy for you to live a more full life, for you to be at choice, for you to be free. The whole essence of spiritual love is the recognition that we're always free. We're always at choice, even though we convince ourselves otherwise. And part of being free is being able to make choices without having to say, oh, God, I can't afford that. And it's not that you have to be able to afford everything. It's that you have to be able, there should be a match between what you need and desire and the resources for that. See, we tend to think that what we need to be happy is we need $1 billion so we can have, you know, a house in Malibu and a house in France and a house wherever, or whatever it is, but you really don't. Most of us would be very happy with much less because once we feel our needs are met, we don't need to get more and more and more and more and more. But sometimes you got to make a lot of money to realize you don't need it. That's the only way you'll figure it out. So if that's your need, go ahead. Just remember to tithe. Whoop, too quick. John Lennon said there are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. Now this is a real easy, this is like a field test. Are you pulling back or are you opening up? And look at all the different areas of your life. You know, are you pulling back in relationships or are you opening up? Are you pulling back in the creative way you do your work or are you opening up? Are you pulling back in terms of your idea of financial consciousness or are you opening up? You know the term tightwad? That refers to what? Somebody that's cheap, right? Why would you be cheap? Well, you're afraid you don't have enough money. So you grip it real tight. The people that count the money can tell. Because some of the money comes in really crimpled up and it's moist. And it's never the big bills. I'm telling you, this is a little insider church fact. It's the ones that are, the 20s are laid out nice and neat. That says something. A simple thing like that, it says something. It says pulling back versus opening up. Oh, I would be generous, but I can't afford it. Okay. So what's it going to take for you to empower yourself, enable yourself to be yourself? Because that's all we're talking about, is empowering yourself and enabling yourself to be what you already are. You're already generous. You're already love. You're already power. You're already beauty. We don't have to go out and get that. We've got it. That's the unconditional loving nature of that which created you. Made you out of that. What you have to do is realize it, accept it, and act accordingly. Realize it, accept it, and act accordingly. I'll say that again. Realize it, accept it, and act accordingly. Spirit has already reached out to you, is reaching out to you in every moment, providing you with everything you need to fully actualize who you are, without exception. I don't care who you're married to. I don't care what your family life was like growing up. I don't care what you think of the economy. I don't care what political party you think you're in or not. I don't care about any of that. I don't care if you've been talking negatively to yourself for 60 years. You are at choice right now. And you're only impeded by your history when you choose to be. That's tough talk, but it's true. Well, you don't know where I grew up. Don't care. Really. If that story isn't working for you, and what I mean by working for you, if your story isn't leading you to creative self-expression at the highest level, it's the wrong story. It's a lie. Even if it factually happened. If you had the worst childhood in the history of the planet, you can overcome it right now by one decision that you then own, accept, and act according to. Is it that simple? Yeah, it may not be that easy. Why wouldn't it be easy? Because you're not going to say, that's really hard. And the universe says, right, you are. If you want to believe it's hard, be my guest. If you want to believe it's easy, be my guest. Because there's no other force keeping you from making it easy but you. What did Emerson say? Get your bloated nothingness out of the way and let the divine circuits flow. Let's affirm that together. Say this after me. I get my bloated nothingness out of the way. And I let my divine circuits flow. Right now. And so it is.